For the day, you don't have to say anything about the lottery? No. No. Thought for the day is me. So, so the race is tomorrow. The 5K run, that's one category. 5K walk, another category. And I'm heading up the crawl faction. So it made me think of a movie that some of you probably weren't even born, 1981. Called Chariots of Fire, and it's a true story about the 1924 Olympics. And a character in there named Eric Liddell says, "I believe God made me for a purpose, but he also made me fast. And when I run, I feel his pleasure." So that's always kind of a key thing, to be able to feel God's pleasure. That's a hard one, because you can say there is a God, or you might say God is love, or God loves us, or God loves me. But to get to this place where you feel God's pleasure, that's a whole other thing, because that means you feel the fact that it's God's joy to love you, and that's kind of where we want to go, is feel this God's pleasure. The other day I was reading Time magazine, and they did an interview with Mel Brooks, and it was, for me, kind of like a thing that rhymes with God. So in it, they were kind of saying how comedians are often compensating for the fact that they've had traumatic childhoods. And they asked him that, and he said, "Oh no." And then he had this image. He said, "When I was a little tiny kid, on cold winter mornings in New York City, my mom would put my socks and my underwear and my shirt and my trousers on the radiator, and they'd be nice and warm. And then she'd dress me under the covers, covering me with kisses and whistling." And he said, "I'm a comedian. I get on stage because I just want my clothes hot and my mom kissing me." And I thought, that rhymes with this idea of feeling God's pleasure. That somehow, that's the image of God, a mother who is kind of dressing you under the covers on a cold winter day, covering you with kisses and whistling. That's exactly right. A number of years ago, there was a homie who worked here. We'll call him Louie. And Louie had worked here, and then he was just loving blazing it too much, so he stopped working here for a time. So he came one day and said, "Please let me come back." I said, "All right, well, let's drug test you right now." Well, he came prepared, so he borrowed urine from his kid brother, and he had it in a little frasquecito. But the problem, of course, was now it was a little bit chilly, yeah. So he goes up to the lunchroom, and he puts this little frasquecito in the microwave, and he turns it to 25 minutes, and I'm not sure I know all the chemistry or the physics of this, but we had exploding urine all over the place. So I'm in my office talking to somebody, and a senior staff comes down and says, "I need to talk to you." So he comes in, "What is it?" Well, he tells me about the exploding urine, and I said, "Well, tell Louie to come down and see me." And then he said, how do you want us to clean the microwave?" I said, "I don't care how thoroughly you clean it, no one will ever heat up a cup of noodles in this thing again. Throw it away." Oh. So I'm talking to this guy, and then suddenly Louie appears at my door. I can see him through the glass, and his head is hung down like this. And I can look in the reception room, and I can see people. You know how word travels around here? People are pointing at him, and people are laughing. And I tell the guy I'm talking to, I better get to this guy. But before I do, a homie walks up to him and puts his arm around him and whispers something in his ear. And then the two of them give a big abrazo. Then another homie comes up and kind of pats him on the back and says, "Don't even trip, dog." Gives him a big abrazo. The third guy comes up and he says to him, "No matter what, here at Homeboy, you're family." And gives him a big abrazo. Now, I don't know if those three guys could feel God's pleasure in them, but I could see it in them. That here they had reached down deep to this place where this kid was stuck in shame and disgrace, and they restored him to the truth of his own dignity as a human being. It is easier for me to see God's pleasure in you than for me to see it in myself. That's the way it works. So we're dependent on each other to remind each other that God's pleasure is in each one of us. And that's what we're going to do today and always.